What's going on, everybody? This is Ango on Tony Pizza Guy's channel, and if you guys don't know, I am the new news anchor on this wonderful pro wrestling channel, bringing you guys all of the biggest news in professional wrestling. And today we're going to kick it off with Brock Lesnar possibly going to Bellator. And a lot of people have been talking about this, but I do want to get everybody's opinion. So if you guys have an opinion on Brock Lesnar and his future within the WWE, UFC, or Bellator, make sure you guys leave a comment down below. But basically, if anybody, pays attention to the whole Brock Lesnar dilemma, people would know that Brock Lesnar was a former UFC world champion. And that is a very huge achievement because pro wrestling is pro wrestling. And it's kind of like a soap opera, So, there's scripts involved, predetermined matches, and all that good stuff. And Brock Lesnar made the transition from pro wrestling to MMA and completely dominated until his very last fight, in which he got knocked out by Overeem. That was UFC 141, and I believe that was in 2011. So that was, a good 4 years ago. That was his last fight for the UFC. And I think with Brock Lesnar in the UFC, Brock Lesnar was pretty sick. He had I think it was diverticulitis. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but he had surgery multiple times. He really wasn't the healthiest, and he still dominated the UFC. Now, the biggest thing with Brock Lesnar and his future is that right now there is a lot for him to prove if he were to step outside of the WWE ring. Because if he was doing very well in the UFC octagon, still a little bit unhealthy, there is a very huge chance that, he can do a lot better, maybe have a couple more big fights left in him, and then definitely, put up million-plus pay-per-view buys. But UFC is kind of the easy route, and a lot of people weren't expecting Scott Coker, who is the president of Bellator, to come out and tell MMAfighting.com that his promotion is sending out feelers for negotiations for Brock Lesnar. So basically, it's just their way of saying hello to Brock Lesnar and his camp, but they do want to strike a deal with him once he becomes a free agent. And I think the craziest thing of this entire, progression of Brock Lesnar's career is that we have seen him in the UFC, we have seen him in, WWE, we've seen him in New Japan. We know he's a very, very big name when it comes to pro wrestling. But at this point, UFC and WWE are major competitors, and now throwing Bellator in the mix is definitely going to be interesting. Because when you really think of pro wrestling and the free agent market, a lot of these guys only have two options: WWE, independent wrestling, or going back to the indies. So that's three options that they have, and Brock Lesnar is maybe one of the only few that can actually make a major move in the MMA world. So throwing Bellator in the mix is kind of crazy because now you have Vince McMahon, Scott Coker, and Dana White all trying to negotiate a contract with Brock Lesnar. And whether or not Bellator is successful, I don't know. I personally don't think so. I'm going to let you guys decide that in the comment section, but it is still a very, very big opportunity for Bellator. So Bellator, for those who don't know, is on Spike TV. They were the program that followed TNA Impact Wrestling. They actually struck a deal with Bobby Lashley, Tito Ortiz, King Mo, but aside from that, they really don't have too many big people, too many big names in their company. Now, granted, Bellator is a lot smaller than UFC, but they do have a little bit of money thanks to the Viacom backing. So with that being said, Brock Lesnar going to Bellator is a very big possibility, but now we really got to take a look at the actual in-depth deals that Bellator could really offer. Brock Lesnar has a lot to prove in a sense of, he has been there with the bigger names in the UFC. Who can Bellator bring to fight Brock Lesnar? Is it going to be one of their own homemade guys, or are they going to, basically essentially do what WCW did to WWE and ECW and just spend their money to bring in someone else to fight Brock Lesnar? And that's always a possibility, and that would do really great for Bellator. But at the end of the day, Bellator has to do something that's really going to be competitive to UFC. And unfortunately, Brock Lesnar is a very, very big name, but Bellator couldn't strike a deal with CM Punk. And obviously, CM Punk and Brock Lesnar are not in the same weight class, but having them on the same card would be a very tremendous deal. Honestly, with UFC, keep this in mind. CM Punk is making his debut in there sometime this fall, hopefully. And having them both on the same card, you're bringing a WWE UFC crossover type of event. That is something UFC has done very well, is use the terminology of WWE in their promotions in their marketing and their advertising. You know, they've never been one to shy away from talking about Brock Lesnar's accolades in pro wrestling and his, you know, amateur college wrestling and stuff like that. But at the same time too, Brock Lesnar is a former UFC champion. He is a former WWE champion, and obviously there is a huge difference between the both. UFC is not predetermined, but still, this is, you know, this is very, very interesting. And then a lot of people also have to bring up the argument, what would happen with Paul Heyman? Does Paul Heyman once again walk away from WWE, or does he continue to be the Paul Heyman that everybody loves, and maybe he'll manage another heel or babyface? You know, there's so many questions that arise from this, but Lesnar's 37 years old. I personally think he will go to the UFC if he were to, in fact, leave WWE. And the reason for that is simply because Brock Lesnar, you know, I feel like he just still has a little bit more to prove. You know, he did a very great job there, but he wasn't healthy. Now he's healthy. Now he has his mind straight. You never know. Like, I feel like he could definitely put on a couple big fights. And obviously, Dana White does want a piece of that money, which why wouldn't he want a little piece of it? It would do a very, very good thing for the UFC. And like I said, the possibility of having, you know, CM Punk, Brock Lesnar on the same card, not in the same fight because of obviously the weight classes are different, but having them on the same card would do tremendous numbers for UFC. And I think a lot of people would look at it as a very, very big move for UFC. Brock Lesnar losing the opportunity to, go to basically UFC would be a big deal for Brock Lesnar's camp as well, because Brock Lesnar has to make a bigger name than what he already is, and obviously he has to make a little bit more money. And WWE offers him a lot of money. You know, they've given him the world title, they've given him WrestleMania main events, they've given him the pay-per-view spotlight. He gets a very, very limited schedule. UFC could pretty much do the same exact thing, just a couple fights, millions and millions of dollars. And then obviously Bellator, on the other hand, you know, I think Bellator would really be a possible threat because of the money, because of Viacom, Spike TV, Bellator, Viacom. It's a very, very big trio when you're talking in entertaining TV. Literally, they have ownership in so many different channels. You're talking MTV, VH1. So bringing Brock Lesnar in there is a very, very big move that they can do, you know, marketing wise. But then you got to talk about opponents, and in the UFC, there's so many more opponents than what Bellator has to offer. UFC has a lot more of bigger names. You know, I don't think it would even be possible, but if Lesnar were to actually get a rematch against Overeem, which I don't think that'll ever be possible, but I don't think we'll ever see that. But if it were to happen, I mean, that would be a very, very great comeback. I don't know if anybody watched the past weekend. Anderson Silva and Nick Diaz was a great fight, you know, but when you look at the potential with Brock Lesnar and putting in another heavyweight, I mean, you're talking a very, 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 very huge pay-per-view card. So not only would it be a very great main event, but it would be a money-making fight for Brock Lesnar and as well as for Dana White in the UFC. Now, obviously, a lot of WWE fans are going to want to see Brock Lesnar stay in the WWE, but as time gets closer, I think Brock Lesnar has pretty much done everything that he has to do in the WWE. He put over, you know, he's been put over when it came to the undefeated streak. He was put over when it came to winning the title. And I think at WrestleMania, he will put over, you know, the next star, which would be a very, very big thing for Brock Lesnar. And I feel like, in fact, if that does happen, he's not really going to be needed in the WWE anymore. So, logically, I think Brock Lesnar fits in very, very well with UFC. But Scott Coker and Bellator's president, you know, they are going to try to make a very big move on Brock Lesnar. And whether or not that happens, we'll see. But don't be shocked to see Bellator step in, throw a couple $1 million for, you know, maybe 1 or 2 fights and then let him go. I don't think they would be smart to do that, but just to, you know, boost their pay-per-view numbers and stuff like that, it's a very, very big possibility. So, with that being said, guys, I appreciate you guys checking out the video. You know, Tony Pizza Guy has basically, he's wanted to provide you guys more news and things like that. He reached out to me, and it was something I could never reject. So this is a very, very big opportunity. If you guys like more WWE news and all of that good stuff, make sure you guys are subscribed to Tony Pizza Guy on YouTube. I do have my own channel as well, which the link will be in the description, youtube.com/AngoYT. And yeah, for more WWE news, make sure you guys stay tuned and make sure you guys are subscribed, because I'll be bringing you guys daily videos Monday through Friday, bringing you guys all the news and pro wrestling. And if you guys have any questions or anything that you guys want to figure out. Maybe you guys have, you know, some topics that you guys want us to speak about. Definitely leave those recommendations in the comment section below. Anyways, guys, this is Ango. Thank you guys for watching the video. Peace.